This is going to sound strange. Be prepared for strangeness. Get ready for spooky time. But there's this family secret. And the secret is that the men in the family can travel in time.
Oh boy, it's a time travel podcast. My name is Nate, and he takes this podcast to some dark spaces. It's Brian Martin.
Yeah. I have been known to podcast from inside the closet. That has happened a couple times.
I wonder what that echo chamber was.
If you go back to like the very first episode we ever recorded, I recorded it from inside a closet. Because it was like the middle of a Sunday afternoon.
Did you really?
Yeah, I was inside a closet. First episode of Quantum Leap when we reviewed it.
I don't remember that. That's funny. Back when we thought this podcast was going to be 30 minutes long.
Oh, God.
Remember that?
Yeah. We could get a good 20 minutes out of it.
Yeah, that's right.
How naive we were. In fact, I think if you listen to the last week's bonus episode, we talked about an episode of The Simpsons that was like 22 minutes long, and our conversation lasted far longer than the length of that episode.
Yeah,
so.
They are well aware of that, trust me.
How these things go. How these things go.
I mean, hey, it's a good time. That's what we do it for, right?
Time. Yes, time is exactly what we do it for. Good, bad, it's all time.
And tonight is the third in the Rachel McAdams time travel trilogy.
Yeah, long time coming on this one. I had this one on the schedule like last year.
Yeah.
We talked about doing this one last year, and it just kind of kept getting punted out farther and farther and farther.
I feel like this is good spacing, though. I feel like it's coming around a good time.
The time is right.
Yeah, because we're going to get back to some long-form storytelling here. The last few things that we've done, either an anthology of some kind, or Tug was on for a short story.
Yeah, we're back to movies. What was the last movie we talked about?
Oh, gosh.
Was it My Old Ass?
Yeah.
Was that the last movie we talked about?
Yeah.
Wow, feels like a lifetime ago.
It does. This is the kind of stuff I'm into, right?
I knew you were going to connect with this one on that level, Nate.
Yeah, connect is a good way to say it. Got some interesting mixed feelings about this. Now, you had seen it before.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I saw it. Well, it came out in 2013. I saw it in 2013. I would say, actually, to be fair, I think it was 2014, maybe.
Okay, so not in the theater, but...
No, I didn't see it in the theater, but I did see it within a few months of its release. I saw it as soon as I could, not in the theater.
Because it's a time travel movie.
Yeah, because it's a time travel movie, because... when you just see the trailer for the movie about time, you know you're in for something that's going to be emotional and heartwarming and funny because the name Richard Curtis is plastered
I was going to say, it's the Love Actually guy.
Yes. Richard Curtis wrote and directed About Time. Now, this is the third movie he directed, and to date, it's the final movie he's directed.
Oh, really?
And he's also said he's not interested in going back to directing. He's largely a screenwriter, and his writing career has been far more prolific than his directing career. His credits include Notting Hill, Bridget Jones's Diary, 4 Weddings and a Funeral, and War Horse.
War Horse?
Yeah, like that one just comes right out of nowhere.
Isn't that a Spielberg movie?
Yes, yeah, and Richard Curtis was co-writer on it.
Oh, wow.
You could tell because there's that whole subplot in the movie where the dude horse shows up at the female horse's stable and starts holding up those cards. I'm just a horse. Tell him it's carolers.
Yeah,
Lie to your husband.
Love Actually is one of these movies that, would you say it doesn't age well? That sort of thing?
I think the problem with Love Actually is that there are so many plot lines in it that a third of them were bound to not age well.
Fair. Yeah.
I think there are plot lines in that movie that are great. I think there are ones that are problematic, obviously. But, I mean, if you're the type of person who is watching Love Actually and you get to the scene where Hugh Grant is dancing around the Prime Minister manse to Jump for My Love by the Pointer Sisters and you don't have a grin on your face, I just don't know what to do with you.
I remember liking it quite a bit the first time I saw it.
I love that moment.
But it's been a long time, and I think there might be some plot lines in this movie that maybe don't age that well.
No, yeah. And this is only 10 years old.
Right.
I do want to talk about this movie, About Time, Richard Curtis's 2013 movie About Time, reminds me of several different things that we've talked about previously.
Okay.
And I wonder if the potential problematic nature of some of the plot lines, it feels like the movie is aware of it and tries to course correct for it in real time. Like it knows it's like, yeah, this is a little skeevy, but let's do this, let's do that. Now, it doesn't really make up for the plot holes that are created by the time travel mechanism itself.
Right.
Of which there are a couple. In fact, when we first talked about this, whenever it was, it might have been when we talked about Time Traveler's Wife, maybe.
It must have been, yeah.
I brought up the moment the movie breaks its own rules is so transparent that even my wife said, wait a minute, can you pause this for a second? She picked up on the fact that it broke its rules, and she's not the type of person aggressively monitoring the sanctity of the time travel rules. But anybody who's just sitting there casually watching it would be like, now hold up, didn't Dad say... So it very candidly breaks its own rules.
Well, we can't have that.
We'll get to... We will get to all of that.
Why don't you start by telling me what it's about?
Whoa, wait a minute. Doc, are you trying to tell me that my mother has got the hots for me? Precisely.
Oh, man. Okay. About Time, like I said, written and directed by Richard Curtis, released in 2013. It stars Domhnall Gleeson as Tim, one of my beloved cinematic Rachels, Rachel McAdams as Mary, Bill Nye as Dad.
Wait, what?
I said last week that this is like a murderer's row. No, Bill Nye the British one. not the scientist one. I said last week that this movie is like a murderer's row of attractive women.
Right.
And yes, Rachel McAdams is here. So is Vanessa Kirby as her friend Joanna, who will next be seen on screen as Sue Storm in the Fantastic Four this summer.
Yeah.
Lydia Wilson as Tim's sister Kit Kat. Tom Hollander, who is great, as a playwright named Harry Chapman. Richard Corddry as the quirky Uncle Desmond. Joshua Maguire as Rory. And, folks, believe it or not, in one of her earliest mainstream feature film appearances, same year as Wolf of Wall Street, came on like an atom bomb, Margot Robbie as Charlotte.
Ah, yes.
Wow. Anyway, there's also a couple uncredited performances in this movie that are worth note. Richard Griffiths, who portrayed Vernon Dursley in the Harry Potter movies.
I have no idea who that is.
He appears in an actor in the stage show that Tim goes to help save.
Okay.
And Richard E. Grant is another actor in that same stage show who appeared in With Nail and I, Hudson Hawk, Bram Stoker's Dracula, Logan, and he was General Pride in Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. And most importantly for us and listeners of this show, he played the classic old variant of Loki in season 1 of Loki in the Wasteland.
Ah, yes, okay.
The one that was in the traditional Kirby outfit.
Right, yeah.
He also had a TV series titled Richard E. Grant's Hotel Secrets, and I have no idea what the fuck that's all about, but I really want to seek it out and find out what that was about. Hotel Secrets. So what is this movie about? Tim, played by, again, General Armitage Hux himself, Domhnall Gleeson, is a young man living with his family at a lovely coastal home in Cornwall, England. While he loves his mother, father, and sister Kit Kat, he yearns for more, something beyond the dreams of the small, tight-knit community he calls home. It's a woman. Tim longs for a woman. Any woman will do. All young men yearn for a woman. Well, I mean, if you swing that way. And on New Year's Day, in his 21st year, Tim learns a shocking family secret that could make acquiring a girlfriend much easier or infinitely more difficult. Tim's father takes him aside and reveals that the men in his family all possess the ability to travel in time. Why? No one knows. How? Well, as Dad says, you, quote, go into a dark place, clench your fists, think of the moment you want to go to, and you'll find yourself there after a bit of a stumble, a rumble, and a tumble. It sounds like dialogue written by Pooh Bear. Tim immediately sees the potential in this power, using it to correct recent mistakes or get do-overs for embarrassing social situations. And while he means well in most of these instances, he comes to understand that there's only so much he can control, and sometimes changes come with a steep price. As time goes by, Tim moves to London, falls for the charming Mary, played again by frequent time traveler spouse Rachel McAdams, and takes a journey back and forth in time that defines his understanding of love, loss, and the potential in every day.
It's crazy that she did 3 movies where she's involved with somebody that's time traveling.
It's kind of wild. Watching this over again, I hadn't seen The Time Traveler's Wife. When we watched it together, that was the first time I watched it.
Right.
I saw, obviously, Midnight in Paris and this, and I was like, man, that's interesting that she's in 2 of these movies. And then you see the third one is there, too, and it's like, wow. Like, is she into time travel? Just, Rachel, are you into time travel? She'd be like, not really, and be like, I guess this interview's over. I don't know, that's all I have.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, I'm sure she's aware of it now, but you think that she was signing on to these things, she was like, do I want to do another one of these?
She was technically in a 4th time travel movie.
Oh, you said this was a trilogy. What are we talking about?
Doctor Strange is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Which employs time travel as well, via the Time Stone. But I'm not going to include that as part of this trilogy.
No, that doesn't work.
Because it's already part of the MCU.
Right.
That's why.
And the sheer similarities, the fact that she's involved romantically in all 3 of them with somebody that just travels in time.
Haplessly time travels. Like, I don't know how I can do this. I don't know why it's happening to me, but here
it's
we
not
are.
even like they have a machine or a fancy car or anything that just, well, that's not true.
Oh, well, no, one of them has a fancy car.
Yeah.
Watch yourself. Gilpinder.
Some kind of mechanism or machine that does it for them. But as long as we're talking about Rachel McAdams, let's just start there. Because
all right, let's start Rachel McAdams.
Yeah, let's start with Rachel, because this is easily my favorite version of her in this trilogy.
Okay, this is her most likable.
Yes,
for sure.
Exactly. She's the most likable. She's cute. She's fun.
You immediately see why he falls for her.
Sure, and
she is infinitely crushable.
Yeah,
in this movie.
Whereas the sheer lack of chemistry that she had with Eric Bana.
I'm Eric Bana, and I'm here with Rachel McAdams. We're in the new movie Time Traveler's Wife, and today we're going to freak each other out by asking ourselves and each other questions that we've just come up with, right?
Yeah, let's freak each other
out.
Sound
good?
Great.
Okay.
Can't wait.
Just made her kind of like, And then she was supposed to be playing the person you didn't want to like in Midnight in Paris, right?
Sure.
So
and she does that quite well, too.
Yeah, well, she does that well. My issue here, I guess is that all 3 of them are incredibly one-dimensional. And, this is no exception. Despite the fact that we like her, she's cute, she's funny, she's loving, there's nothing wrong with her.
No.
No. She's like the Chad of time travel wives.
Stop staring at my butt.
And that also kind of makes her boring a little.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with that. That's why she's got that haircut, Nate.
The bangs make her look cute. That's the thing.
Bangs are compensating for the one-dimensionality of the character.
What would be considered a romantic comedy, at least the first 3/4 of this movie,
Sure.
It's supposed to be about personalities coming together in the right way, right? So like a romantic comedy is about bringing 2 characters that are fully realized into connection the way puzzle pieces would go together. Like this one fits so perfectly with this one. It's 2 personalities coming together in some fashion, right? And this one, about halfway through it, I kind of realized that I was enjoying their relationship too much. No secret out there, I love the romantic comedy. I love the romance movie. But the thing I struggle with those is that there's always the fall. We've talked about this, right? The rise and then the fall and then it comes back. And I just think about, what's going to be the horrible thing that breaks them up? What's going to be the terrible thing that he does or that she does or that he does? It's always he does. And I just kept waiting for that to come. Like, something's gonna happen. But nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
It's just good, all the time.
I think about the time it's supposed to happen. Like, as far as narratively, structurally, when you're supposed to hit that point in the relationship, it's about the time that Kat gets in the car crash.
I would have put it up before that.
You would put it before that?
If this were structurally sound like that, cutting away that last fourth that was basically a father-son movie all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I feel like it's as the baby comes or just before the baby comes. The relationship starts to get stretched thin and bothered by either her pregnancy or something like that would strain on the relationship. That seems like the most likely to me.
Okay. I guess I'm saying I hang on that point because Tim goes back after that accident all the way back.
Right.
Right?
Oh, and he'd mess it up. I see.
And he messes up his own child's existence.
Okay, where is the most fabulous person in the world? Come to your dad and get mashed up food shoved into your mouth.
Hello there, little boy. You just wait there. I'll be back in a minute.
Right.
Right? And when that happens, that's the point at which I'm kind of expecting, tension. Something irreversible
I see what
has
you're
happened.
saying. Yeah, no,
right?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
And it's going to create a problem that largely stems from him and his own awareness of what existed before, but it never happens.
Right.
And it's resolved just as quickly as it's introduced in a way that runs counter to what we've been told is possible by the movie itself at that point.
Right.
So the potential for that moment goes away just as quickly as it comes.
Yeah.
And then you kind of realize quickly, this is just not that kind of movie. And then it does change tack and becomes heavily focused on the father-son relationship, which to me is one of the most effective parts of the movie, but that's because I'm coming at this
with that
as a son and a father.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. You're speaking more specifically to this movie.
Where could you have slotted in that tension?
As I was watching it, I was like, okay, when's she going to find out he lied? When's she going to find out he lied? When she's going to find out that he's manipulated her from the beginning.
It doesn't seem to ever...
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It never. But that's what I was waiting on.
She never knows.
Yes. And
which is weird, considering that it's clear he has a high enough regard for her, and his relationship with her means enough to him that he does not go to bed with Margot Robbie.
Right.
Folks.
Yeah.
Domhnall Gleeson, if you don't know what to picture for him, you don't remember Hux from the Star Wars movies or whatever.
I forgot that that's who he was.
Yeah, he was General Hux.
All remaining systems will bow to the First Order!
You know?
Yeah.
He's a ginger. Like, the one shot he's got with Margot Robbie is right.
Just alienated our entire redhead audience.
Look, we all understand. Look, I love redheads.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, like, the movie presents him as the kind of guy who's...
No, I know.
The movie refers to him as a ginger.
Too tall, too skinny, too orange.
Yeah, and the whole shtick is that he not only doesn't have a girlfriend, but considers that he never will. That's his whole thing when it starts. To the point where he's gifted the power of time travel, and his first and only thought was using it to find love.
Sure.
You know?
He just marches out of the room. Score, 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 score.
It's not Beavis and Butthead.
We will travel through time until we find the part of human history where we can score.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so getting back to the main point was Rachel McAdams. There wasn't enough of a rounded personality to feel like something wrong was going to happen.
Yeah, there's nothing to criticize.
Yeah.
Even during the sequence where you meet her and she's got another boyfriend.
Right. Yeah.
Like, there's nothing wrong there. Like, nothing is wrong.
That's the other
about
thing.
This.
You could say...
The boyfriend even likes Tim.
Yeah. It's like I said, you could almost say that he's wrong for breaking that up.
Yeah, you could. And that's where I think this movie differs from something like Chrononauts. I kept thinking of like, the end of Chrononauts and how those guys are extraordinarily manipulative with the time travel to sort of shape their relationships. I think the movie takes great care in a couple of ways. One, after the time travel mechanism is introduced and Tim experiences that summer where Charlotte, played by Margot Robbie, comes and stays with them at the house because she's friends with Kit Kat over the summer, and he kind of starts to use the time travel to make himself look like less of a fop, and we get to the end of the summer and he just takes his shot. He says, I really have feelings for you. And she said, oh, I can't believe you waited till the last night. I wish you had asked me sooner. So he immediately travels back, and she says, you know what? That's really sweet. Ask me again on my last night. And he realizes then that
she's just playing with him.
Oh, you're just toying with me, and time travel can't compel somebody to fall in love with you.
Right.
One, right? That's the first thing the movie does to set this up later.
Right.
The second thing that the movie does is when Tim and Rory go out to dinner at this, and this is a great fucking device. I think this is a brilliant device to go to a dinner in the dark scenario.
So maybe I'll see you outside.
Yeah, great.
Great. Scary.
Yeah, it's a bit scary.
Oh,
Which
yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard of one of these things.
I had never, and I wasn't even really sure what was going on.
It's funny because, like, when I was on my honeymoon in Rome, we were at dinner one night and we met this woman and her companion who was a blind guy, and they invited us to one of these events. We couldn't go because we had other obligations and stuff. But this sort of like dinner in the dark.
Yeah.
The experience is meant to sort of simulate what it's like as a blind person consuming food. Right? And you can't see the people sitting next to you. You can't really see where the plate and the silverware are, and it leads to some funny moments that are all auditory in this scene, as you might try to feed a scoop of your dessert to Rachel McAdams and it ends up in her eye or something like that, right?
I've got quite a lot of strawberry mousse in my eye now.
I'm so sorry.
No, thank you. It's a new sensation for me.
But
I thought it was some kind of singles meets or something like that.
No, it wasn't. No. It was like a dinner in the dark kind of thing. And they just got seated at a table with these two.
Oh, okay.
Right? But for the purpose of this movie, as far as meet cutes go, that's a great device because they can't see each other.
Right.
You have no idea who these people look like. And I love when Vanessa Kirby comes out and sees Rory. She's like, look, I got to get out of this immediately. Like a dweeb. But the point is, when Rory and Tim go to this event, it is just the natural course of events, right? So it's not like he time traveled and manipulated anything to arrive at this point. Him and Rory are going here because that's just what they're doing.
Yeah.
And he meets her, they exchange numbers, and when he goes back home, he finds out that Harry's opening night has crashed because Richard E. Grant forgot his lines, and Tim is like, no problem, I can fix it.
Yeah.
And Tim is still new at the time travel game, so he doesn't realize that by going back and fixing it, he's undoing his night with Rory, where he meets Mary, and now they haven't met.
Right.
So
that was fun. Fun in the way that that's what I thought the movie was going to be. That's where I felt like it was firing.
He's kind of keep managing time to make sure this happens, even as he's going out and saving people and helping people out.
Yeah.
And doing these selfless things. But I think, one, it's a selfless act.
Right.
And two, his meeting with Mary is what happened organically originally.
Right.
And that's where the movie grants itself the permission structure to reshape events, to allow him to go back and manipulate events so he can get her back.
Because you knew it was supposed to work anyway.
All he's doing is correcting what had happened before and finding a new route to it. And it's very clever, and I agree with you. That's like the best sustained sequence in the movie. He spends all week at the Kate Moss exhibit. He goes back in time to the party.
Yeah.
Leaving the party with her just as that new boyfriend is coming in before they had the chance to meet, right?
And jabbing him just a little bit so that she won't find it. Just
but
in
again,
case.
As far as we know, he was a nice guy. He seemed nice.
He
enough. Liked... Yeah,
but Mary wouldn't fall for a jerk, right?
Would she? Well, we don't know. We don't know enough about Mary to really know. That was a great line. That was a great line when she was like, I almost wore Kate Moss tonight. What about you? He's like, oh no, it looks terrible on me. Yeah, like that was a lovely little line. I thought, oh yeah, they're gonna fall for each other, you know?
Yeah, it is true that they fall for each other outside of his time travel manipulation. And I agree, fixing the play for this grouch of a person, you know, we don't have any love lost for that character yet. The playwright, what's his name? Harry. Yeah, we don't have any love lost for Harry.
He's kind of a douche. He's had a couple funny lines, though. Does your mother still look like Andy Warhol being one of them?
Yeah, right.
Because we've seen her haircut at that point, and we're like, yeah, he's got a point.
And he doesn't like Tim's dad.
Yeah, which the whole reason Tim is staying with Harry is because him and his dad
doesn't
are old
like Tim's dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. At any rate, you know, there's no reason for us to want to fix that for him, right? But the fact that we will see Tim do that is the illustration, like you were saying, that he's a good guy, right? That's supposed to signify to us that he will never use these powers for ill. So anything that he gets to do from here on out is with the best intentions. Now, that's always the case in this kind of movie. Everything the person that is pursuing the partner is doing with the best intentions, right? They're always, and they don't necessarily see the negatives in what they're doing.
Have we ever gotten a romantic comedy movie told from the perspective of the quote-unquote jerk boyfriend? Like entirely from the perspective of the jerk boyfriend?
The one
the boyfriend's...
The one that gets his girl stolen from him?
Yeah, by the altruistic, I'm just a guy in love with a girl holding the boombox up outside her window. You know, like that character.
Cobra Kai?
Have we... Is that what that Cobra Kai is about?
A little bit.
Because I would love to see a movie like that. Like, this guy's looking at it like, hey, police, I've got a guy who's stalking my girlfriend, and he's just like a normal dude. But the hero, the perceived quote-unquote hero, perceives him as such a douchebag that he's got to rescue the girl from, right? And the whole time he's just like...
That's a little bit what Cobra Kai is about.
All right, well, I got to get on Cobra Kai.
You haven't watched Cobra Kai?
I haven't watched Cobra Kai yet.
But as far as like a romance movie or something, I don't think we've seen anything like that. I don't know if it would favor with audiences. People go to these movies, like myself, you know, we watch that. We want that, and we want to feel good, and we just want all the feels.
You want the warmth.
Yeah.
You want the warmth. You want to tear up a couple of times. I think this movie delivers on those.
And that's the thing,
you know,
is
like
it does. It does continuously, to the point where, as I mentioned before, where's the fall? What is going to break these two up so that they can get back together? It doesn't happen.
Part of the issue is that the movie really changes tack in its third act, and the drama between Tim and his father kind of takes the front seat.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. Like, the movie wasn't really about that up until that point.
Right. No, not at all.
Did you think that it was ever going to be?
No, I mean, it kind of, like I said, the whole time I'm watching the movie, I'm waiting for this formula to play its way out, you know?
Yeah.
I'm expecting the structure to stay the structure I understand, because all of them do it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of any successful one that maybe Harry Met Sally probably bucks that trend the most. And it's one of the most popular. But that one's like, I meet somebody, and then we go away for a while, and then we come back and we meet each other again, and then we come back. It's not...
It's like going in and out of your life, kind of. It's one of the best written romantic comedies of all time. It's got two of the most likable stars of all time.
Yeah,
you know, like,
it's hard to hold a candle to.
Yeah, you can't beat When Harry Met Sally, I don't think.
As they're cruising along, and I'm liking Mary because she's cute and she smiles and gives you
and she's humble.
There's
that scene where she meets Mom, and Mom says, "Oh, good Lord, you're pretty." And she's like, "No, I just have a lot of makeup and mascara on."
Right.
And then Mom's response is something like, "Oh, good. You don't want to be too pretty," or something like that.
Right,
you know?
right. She examines her face really close and goes, "Oh, you're right." You know?
Yeah.
Hello.
Mum, this is Mary.
Mary.
Hi.
Good Lord, you're pretty.
Oh, no, it's just... I've got a lot of mascara and lipstick on.
Let's have a look. Oh, yes. Good. It's very bad for a girl to be too pretty. Stops her developing a sense of humour. Or a personality.
Tea? Love a cup of tea.
Oh, Christ, that's the whole day gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's full of great moments like that. And like I said, you like her. She tells the mother that she has a bad temper, but it's immediately followed up with, but I've got a soft spot for your son because I'm pretty much perfect. And I love seeing all those things, and you love to see people in love together, but it's also took long enough that I was kind of missing the fall. Like, usually I watch it and I'm waiting for it to happen because I don't want it to happen. I wish this movie could just play out with them being together forever and loving each other. And this one does. And I don't, I don't know if it works.
Do you think this movie not having a fall versus the time traveler's wife having that really piddly fall,
this is far more
immediately
successful.
Walk back? I prefer this to that.
Oh, this is a much better movie. It's a much better movie on so many levels, just because the two main characters here are ones that you like seeing together. Like I said, Rachel McAdams, this is the first thing that I've ever seen her in where I found her at all reasonably likable.
Wow, really?
Honestly, yeah, like those two other movies that we've watched with her.
Oh, well, yeah.
And then in Doctor Strange, like, I forgot what she looked like. They could have recast
Did you watch The Notebook? Have you ever seen The Notebook?
No, that one I haven't seen.
Oh my god. Okay, all right.
But
so this is all.
She wasn't.
I get it.
She's not particularly good in that either, though. Doctor Strange. I
mean, she is what she is. She has a bigger role to play in Multiverse of Madness. Oddly.
Yeah, but even then, she's so plain Jane. Now that I'm thinking about it, you know who I'd like to see in this is Jennifer Garner.
I like your dress. It's because I've got these incredible boobs to fill it out.
I'd like to see Jennifer Garner play Mary. Recast and go again.
Well, I mean, if we're dipping into the pool of cinematic Rachels, Rachel Weisz. I would watch Rachel Weisz in anything.
In most other things, I haven't found a lot of appeal for her. She just seems so one note. And this one is also very one note, but she's so gosh darn perfect. She's just perfect. And that's also kind of a problem.
She's flawless. Their relationship has no visible problems. Money isn't a problem.
No.
They evidently have enough money for 3 fucking kids. 3 fucking kids? Okay, whatever.
Right.
I mean, well, this was like 10 years ago, maybe.
Even so.
But, like, I think this movie looks like a romantic comedy. Parts of it feel like a romantic comedy, but ultimately, I'm not sure that's what it's trying to be.
I think too much of it looks like it. It definitely is to begin with.
And I mean, it's Richard Curtis. He is a modern-day master of the romantic comedy, as it were. So I get that, but if I were taking this whole movie and looking at the whole scope of it, it's really about Tim's own journey of self-discovery. And part of that involves his wife and finding what we consider to be, at an early age, love. And then slowly realizing that love manifests itself in different ways. And at the beginning, he acknowledges that he loves his mother, he loves his sister, he loves his dad.
My mum was lovely, but not like other mums. There was something solid about her, something rectangular, busy and unsentimental. Dad, well, he was more normal. He always seemed to have time on his hands. After giving up teaching university students on his 50th birthday, he was eternally available for a leisurely chat or to let me win at table tennis. And then finally, there was Catherine, Katie, Kit Kat, my sister. She was then, and still is to me, about the most wonderful thing in the world.
His relationship with those things change over the course of the movie, except for Mom. I guess Mom's kind of static, too. One of the most impactful moments for me, and I don't mean that as a pun, but after the car hits Kit Kat, right? This is kind of the turning point of the movie.
That's like 2 puns.
On the child's, is it first birthday?
Yeah, something.
The first birthday party, I think. The family's coming over, and Kit Kat is not present. Where is she? Well, it turns out she's in the ER because she's been in a bad car accident. And the reason she's been in a bad car accident is really not because she wrecked her car, but it all traces back to the fact that she's been in a toxic relationship with this guy since the New Year's Eve party the day before Tim found out he could travel through time.
Right.
So Tim says, I'm going to fix it. He goes all the way back to stop Kit Kat from partnering up with this guy, and she has like a whole different life experience, right? Mm-hmm. And then he goes home and says, things are square. He goes home, sees his kid is different. Yeah. It's a boy now.
Yeah.
And he freaks out and then goes to his dad and is like, Dad's like, oh yeah, mate, boy, we can't go back too far.
I can't go back past the birth again, can I?
No, I should have mentioned that. You're okay till it comes out. But the exact sperm at the exact moment got you this particular baby. So if you do anything the tiniest bit different, you'll have a different child.
So, every day up till yesterday is as it will always be. Lost.
Just like for everyone else.
Okay. Interesting. Tough. I love you, Dad. I've got to go.
And so Tim has to make a decision there. Which of these two things means more to me? you
Right,
know?
right.
He has to look at his sister and the toxic relationship she's going to spend years in, and he's got to look at his daughter and say, which of these two things do I need to save?
Right.
Right? He starts to kind of understand, like, I can't achieve everything. I can't fix everything. And yeah, being a father changes you. And I can't be the person I want to be for my sister.
Well, that's what I assumed the movie was going to be about at that point.
Sure.
So I thought, oh, and I didn't think about it in terms necessarily of the kid, because it occurred to me prior to him returning. When he found out that she'd been in that car accident, and you knew that he was going to try and go fix it, right? Just everything in the movie up to that point has led you to believe that this character would take this power and make an effort to fix it. And at that point, I was like, oh, okay, so it's going to be a movie about him having to make the choice of his own happiness versus that of the sister that he's already told us was everything to him, right? So then I thought the movie was just going to be like, now do I throw away everything I've built with this woman because of family or because of my sister? But even that resolves in what amount of running time?
Yes.
15 minutes?
That's exactly what I expected too.
Yeah.
I kind of expected they're going to go back. She's not going to be with this toxic relationship. He's going to bounce back and his whole relationship will be gone.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then he has to go and try it again, right?
And why wouldn't it be? Yeah, yeah.
Not just narratively.
Oh, what are the rules? What are the rules? What are the rules? What are the rules?
But I think in terms of the rules that are set forth by Dad and the rules that we kind of learn and can discern throughout the movie, that's what the movie sets you up for. Because according to what Dad says, once Posey is gone, there should be no way to get Posey back.
Theoretically, yeah.
Because you have altered it, and no matter what you do going back, you're just going to, like, it's not going to be what happened originally.
Right.
Right?
Right.
The movie immediately undercuts that because Posey comes back.
And again, this is another situation where the frustrations and any kind of rocky moment that could be in Tim's life, got that ironed out, you know?
Right.
That, along with Mary's being kind of the perfect girl, that relationship just sailed.
Yes, yeah.
A regular romantic comedy, she would have been super pissed if she knew that he went back and tried their first time 3 times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure. Like, it works for us, the viewer, but that's like the skeeviest thing he does.
On a level, it works for us. But on another level, it's sort of like he's misrepresenting himself.
That's true, yeah.
Every time he goes back and does something a different way with her, he's kind of misrepresenting himself as, this is your first impression of me. He gets to change that. And there's something nice about that, and there's something
sinister.
Yeah, there's something a little sinister. Yeah.
And that extends not just to his relationship with her, but one of the pieces of advice that his dad gives him later in the movie is to live through the day, experience all the stress and frustration, and then live that day again, knowing what's going to happen and freeing yourself from that. And that works great for him intrinsically, but for everyone around him, he appears to be someone he is just emphatically not.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, he handles stress better, you know. But circling this all back to your main point at the beginning is that there is a moment at the very, very beginning where he asks about the butterfly effect.
Right.
And his dad basically says, you can never do anything to change that much. That was the answer to that question. It's like,
well, not when you're a small thinking Brit living in Cornwall your whole life. No, there's not much you can change. Because he says, oh, you can't go back and kill Hitler or shag Helen of Troy, which is pretty funny.
Right.
Because you can only go back to...
Within your own lifetime.
Within your own lifetime.
Yeah.
And to places that you can visualize and remember. Like, I don't know, our friend in La Jetée, who has a very strong visual memory.
Yeah. The best movie I ever read.
That's great. Yeah, we're getting into the problematic aspects, not just of the movie from a structural standpoint, but from Tim as a character. And the movie is constantly redirecting your attention away, right? Because everything is so wholesome and heartwarming that you don't really stop and think about the broader implications for the people around him. Because nothing that he's doing is overtly malicious. It doesn't seem like he's doing anything that's going to negatively impact anyone, other than that sad sack who dated Rachel McAdams for a week and then suddenly didn't.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
I come away from this movie realizing that everything goes according to plan for Tim. Like his whole life. Yeah. Nothing ever goes wrong for him. So when you talk about what is this movie about, it's about time. Ha ha ha. But right. But I mean, I really think that's what it's about. It's about time. And what kind of time do you have to spend with the people that you love, and how long do you spend it with them, and how much do you appreciate the time that you have with those people and those moments in your life?
Yeah.
Which, okay, but at the end of the day, the movie is almost devoid of drama. You know, I don't want to say emotion. It's not devoid of emotion, but even the most dramatic part, which is the passing of the father, which I'm sure we'll get to in one of the segments you have lined up here.
Yeah, 100%.
We'll get there, but even that moment is smooth sailing, really. As far as anybody can handle that kind of loss, I mean, Tim's life is kind of picture perfect. And what kind of movie do you want about a picture perfect individual? Everybody wants flaws and bumps in the road, and anything that happens to Tim, he smooths over immediately.
It may have been the smoking, but I couldn't undo that, as it was before you were all born. And anyway, your mother definitely wouldn't have gone out with me if I hadn't been such a sexy smoker. I did get diagnosed as soon as possible, but it was too late.
How long have we got?
Oh, you know, it could be years.
How long, really?
Weeks, I'm afraid.
It's from the time he spent smoking before Tim was born.
Right.
Which adds a wrinkle, because he can't go back in time and stop himself from doing that, because then he'll lose Tim. Right? Because we've sort of established that. But
see, that's one of the things I liked about it.
That's when that device comes back and really rears its head, and it does it one more time in a really, really effective way right at the end, right?
Right, yeah, exactly.
But there's a difference between knowing you're seeing a loved one for the last time and not knowing it's going to be the last time you see them.
Yeah.
Right?
Like
and
Chad used to talk about.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Like our buddy Chad from My Old Ass. But
yeah, I forget that people aren't necessarily listening to these in order. I'm like, you remember Chad? Yeah.
I hope you guys remember Chad. What a likable guy.
Go back and listen to My Old Ass.
We're going to have to add a Ziggy's category for most likable person.
Ooh. Rachel would be right up there against Chad.
It would be Rachel McAdams versus Chad.
We'll see.
But the moments that he gets to spend with his father, especially when they travel back on the beach, right? Mm-hmm. Now, this is a time travel journey that, again, bucks all the fucking rules the movie has established.
Yeah.
And yet, I'm granting it that one, because it is...
Brian is granting?
It's the only thing to do for that emotional moment, right? To have them go back and enjoy a day on the beach when he's a little boy, and it's a wonderful moment. And if you're going to make a movie about time travel, you got to have that moment in it. You know?
Yeah.
Like, you get to experience not just more time knowing that your father is going to pass, but to get it to experience that sort of time, right?
Yeah.
It's magic.
The other clever part of it is that both of them travel in time.
Right.
So every other movie, when somebody time travels with it, they have to spend the time convincing said person that they're a time traveler or something like that. Or they just kind of have to keep it a secret and act like there's nothing different. In this one, the father readily accepts or expects even that Tim's going to show up from the future at some point.
Have we had this conversation before?
Yeah.
What happened?
I rather let myself down. I hugged you.
And he can look him in the eyes and be like, oh, well, what time are you coming from?
Yeah.
Why are you visiting me now? What's going on? You know?
Yeah.
And that's really clever and interesting. And that comes right near the end of the movie, just before this moment you're talking about. And they can work together to share that moment on the beach.
I'm glad you mentioned that sort of, I guess, trope of time travelers where they're back and they got to be cagey about it. They can't really confide in anyone. It's like their secret thing.
Yeah.
And this movie really flips that on its head in a way I haven't seen before.
Really? Yeah.
Where the time traveler doesn't know he can travel through time, and his dad is the one telling him, no, you can do this.
Right.
Like, this is
like
the thing.
Teen Wolf.
Wait a minute, Dad. I mean, you knew about this? You knew about this and you didn't tell me?
It is. Yes.
You're a werewolf.
It is. It's like a family curse almost, right?
Or a blessing.
The time traveler we're going to follow is like the one who's kind of in disbelief about it, right?
Yeah.
So it is a really interesting relationship, and it's one that you don't get to see much in time travel movies.
Right. Yeah.
If ever. I can't think of other than like, you got the scenarios like in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure where Bill and Ted are like, no way. And then like future Bill and Ted just show up there at the convenience store.
Right. That conversation made a lot more sense the second time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. The father-son stuff is almost too much for me.
Yeah?
Yeah. Like, I'm at an age that my parents are at an age where it's how much time is left.
Yes. Yeah, me too.
And that's hard. I always, slowing it down here a minute, but like I always feel bad for people when they're like, oh, my parents are coming into town, or oh, I can't stand my family, or oh, I have to go home for the holidays this year. I can't imagine having that type of relationship. Even we've had conversations where you have difficulty talking about certain things with your father because of your political dichotomy, right?
Yeah, sure.
I don't have any of that. I love spending time with my family. Any troubles that I had with my upbringing are the normal troubles that, like they were parents. They're doing the best they can, like that.
Sure.
And so it's hard to think about this period in your life. It's one of these things that I kind of just am keeping in blinders and keeping behind a curtain for myself, like, oh, I don't have to deal with that yet, and this movie's got it right up front. So it was hard to watch in that regard. And then I think about it, it's like a whole different movie. There's so much meat on that bone, it could take up the 2 hours.
Right.
That
but
relationship
I think
could
saving
take
it at
2
the
hours.
end, it's like it does blindside you.
And I don't know
Like
if that's a good thing, though.
Like, you don't think Tim's going to have to deal with this. Tim doesn't think he's going to have to deal with this. And all of a sudden, it's like, what does this mean? How does this change things?
Right, but the audience also doesn't think they're going to have to deal with this because that's not what we thought the movie was.
Right.
Right. It kind of really seems like you're rolling out a snake of Play-Doh in blue, and then you just take the end of it, you pull it off, and shove some yellow on the end.
Yeah,
I think not the same movie.
No, I think it's intentional. I think the effect is designed to sort of shock you and be like, oh, these moments just happen, and you can't prepare for them. And even though Tim can travel through time, one of the big lessons of this whole experience is that, yes, Tim can travel through time. Does his time travel fundamentally change anything about the way his life unfolds? Not really, right?
Well,
If it was all just left there and he was not able to travel through time, he would have had less experience. He would have been a different person behaviorally. But given what we know, there's a high likelihood he would have just ended up in the same place with the same
Mary,
woman doing the same things.
Because of the blind date thing.
Right, because that was not something controlled by the time travel. So does he end up in the same place?
That's arguable. I get what you're saying, and I don't wholly disagree, because we already established that they're going to end up together anyway. But, I mean, he spent the bulk of that relationship doing things right. And who knows?
It's true.
It's like,
how many arguments did they have? And he was like, let me just go into the closet.
And I'm going to cool off, and I'll come back and realize that she's right, and she'll be happy with me again. Yeah, I mean, it's...
No, they didn't have arguments. They didn't have arguments.
No, they didn't. They didn't. And that's also problematic in this kind of movie. And here's my, I guess, my issue with it. All of it is working in eliciting the emotion that you want it to, because all of the characters, even the flat one-dimensional Mary, are all likable characters that you want to see good things happen for, right?
I don't want to undersell Tim. I think Domhnall Gleeson
he's
is
good.
Great in this.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially considering the borderline Nazi he plays in the Star Wars movies.
And we'll remember this as the last day of the Republic!
Yeah, no, everyone is good. I guess what I'm driving at is that this movie presents itself clearly as a romantic comedy with a little twist, a little fun twist. It wants you to say, and this was a movie about Tim's life from beginning to end. But it wasn't really.
Yeah.
It was a romantic comedy that got shortchanged by a stronger drama.
Yeah, that's fair. 100% fair.
It was a romantic comedy, and then it became a really heavy family drama. And both of those things were working, and it plucks all the right strings in your heart the whole time, all the way through. So you don't even notice that it's pulling the wool over your eyes.
So, yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, if you want to sort of summarize what this movie is about, it's about the choices that Tim makes.
Yeah.
Whether
and they're
those
all
choices
right, and that's the problem.
Well, they're never going to be wrong.
Exactly.
Because there are multiple times he redoes them over and over and over again. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
but until he can't, and that's the crux of the third act, is that he's finally backed into this corner.
Really could be tonight.
And you cannot believe the detail in which I know the route to the hospital.
Oh, yay.
Will you excuse me for a sec? I just have to go downstairs.
Mm.
And that's what they're trying to tell you. And now I'm at a point where...
That's what they're trying to tell you, man.
No, yeah, I'm not trying to fight this movie because I enjoyed...
Chemtrails.
I enjoyed my time watching the movie. I'm just back to my old character where I'm belligerent about things. So,
this is the right thing to do. We're not just going to sit here for 2 hours. I enjoy this movie. Okay, I'm going to get out there and say it. I think this movie is a very good watch. It's enjoyable. It does tug your heartstrings in all the ways it sets out to.
Yeah.
I think you largely agree with that it's worth a watch.
Yeah.
But we've got to be critical of it because the first time I watched it, I was critical of it. In fact, I think I liked it more this time. Kind of had the same Looper effect where the issues I had with the time travel derailed my experience the first time with Looper. Well, also the mutants in Looper derailed my experience.
Right.
But this one, when I watched it the first time, when those contradictions start really emerging just beyond the halfway point of the movie, it started to really pull me out of things.
Yeah.
This time I kind of let that go a little bit, and I'm like, okay, on an emotional level, I'm connecting with it much more than on a metaphysical level. So it was much more effective this time. But I completely think that we should be looking at this critically like this.
Yeah, I was kind of the opposite because I didn't get tripped up on the time travel because I was so invested in wanting to see a romantic comedy.
Okay.
But that stuff will suck me in, and I'll just be engrossed in just the worst movies. That Reese Witherspoon movie with the ghost door, you know? It's the
that one that may or may not exist.
It exists! I forget what it's called. But anyway.
That's convenient.
There's a line to say at some point he learns to basically live without time traveling.
Yes.
But it's just a line at the end of the movie, at the epilogue as it's wrapping up. So it's...
Right, like on his way out the door, he's like, and here's my parting words for you.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the time travel, guys. Just live every day like it's your last. Goodbye. Yeah. Good night, everybody.
If he kind of came to that realization, I don't know.
Like there's no real visible way that he came to that
he just
conclusion.
tells us, yeah.
He just sort of does eventually. Because his dad provides him with two big rules in his secret formula for happiness. And one is to get on with normal life, living it day to day like anyone else. But two, and I mentioned this a little bit ago, live every day again, almost exactly the same, but more carefree and less anxious about outcomes.
And so he told me his secret formula for happiness. Part one of the two-part plan was that I should just get on with ordinary life, living it day by day like anyone else. But then came part two of Dad's plan. He told me to live every day again, almost exactly the same. The first time with all the tensions and worries that stop us noticing how sweet the world can be. But the second time, noticing.
Okay, Dad. Let's give it a go.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we get to the some days you only want to go through once, and that's when you find out his dad has passed away.
Yeah. If they're trying to have it just be a movie about Tim's life and experiences, it would have to dial back the role that Mary has.
Sure.
And if dealing with time travel hadn't made everything easy, even the hard parts are easy. You do discover that his father is passing away. For a little while there, you think, yeah, but it's not really going to mean too much to him because he can just go back and see him whenever he wants.
Until he can't.
Right. His wife has urged him to have a third child, and knowing that if he does that,
he'll never see his dad again.
He clearly has been back and told his father that that's what's going on. You know, the baby's almost born. This is our last hurrah.
Right.
And it's sad, but at the same time, it's heartwarming because they've come to it together.
It's sad like when Betty White died.
In 1952, I starred in my first live sitcom, which was Life of Elizabeth. And of course, back then, we didn't want to do it live. We just didn't know how to tape things.
It's like, yeah, but she was like 107, right? You know? It's like it's hard to feel bad about that in the way it's...
It wants you to feel sad, but it's not harsh.
Right. Everybody got what they needed out of it. Joked a little bit ago about him and Mary probably never having an honest-to-God fight in the restored timeline.
Right.
There was one scene where home stress was introduced.
And he tried to get out of it.
And, man, Nate, to me, the hardest part of all of human existence is raising a child. I don't think I've ever gone through anything as hard as this.
Yeah, you just got to be good at it, man.
Thanks.
Just
good.
Just get better at it. Ain't that tough?
Hey, if I could travel through time just by clenching my fists, I'd be traveling through time constantly and not on purpose. Anyways.
We're just cruising along over here, you know?
Good for you. Good for you. I'm happy for you. I'm real happy for you. The scene where Posey destroys Mary's manuscript.
Yeah.
Right?
Because Tim left a door open.
Right.
Yeah.
And all he's got to do is travel back in time and he fixes it. Boom. You know?
Yeah, but he can't because she won't let him out of the room.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
But it's not like he couldn't later.
Right.
He's got all the time in the world to do that. And he's never had to own up to an issue. He's never had to swallow his pride in a fight, anything like that.
Going all the way back to the beginning when we talked about maybe this movie is a bit problematic too, I agree that it is perpetually flirting with that, but the movie certainly feels like it's done enough to avoid it. He never goes back and does anything that could be considered jerk behavior.
Yeah, he's too perfect, she's too perfect.
Everybody's too perfect and altruistic, and everybody's just living their lives as ideally as possible with or without time travel.
He even had an ideal upbringing. He even said that he had the perfect childhood.
Their house is like this beautiful coastal villa.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What did his dad do? Did they ever establish what his dad's...
he was a college professor that retired at 50.
That's right. And his dad also used all of his time travel. Like, he'd go back and tried to read as many books as possible.
Yeah.
Which is a detail I really love. But this is something that gets a little fuzzy. There's two ways in which this sort of breaks what we come to expect. The scene where Tim takes Kit Kat back to New Year's Eve, right? Mm-hmm. So the men in the family are able to travel through time, except also if they're holding on to someone, they can take that person back with them.
Which we didn't know.
Oh, okay, I guess so. All right, that's convenient. So Kit Kat goes back. They make the adjustment to the time stream so she doesn't end up with that guy. They come back to the future.
Back to the future!
And her memory adjusts to the new timeline in real time after she comes back.
Oh my God.
What?
Jay.
JJ?
Yes. And, he's adorable. Oh my God. Right. Let's do this.
The memories of her time with Jay start to flood in.
Right.
And replace the memories of the other guy.
Replace? Or
I don't know if she
additive?
has. Does she have all of it? I don't know.
I think she has to, because if she doesn't, then he wouldn't, and Posey wouldn't matter.
That's what I'm saying. And that's what I'm going back. Does he remember it all, or is it like Time Cop, where he like showed up back home after work and his daughter was there and his wife was still alive?
He didn't recognize the kid, remember? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he clearly remembers the original timeline.
Yeah. And I wasn't sure if it was, okay, maybe the males have that ability, but the females don't, or like whoever he pulled her back. Like, but the movie doesn't really go into detail about that, and it's one of those things that I wouldn't be upset about it if it didn't invite me to question it.
Right.
The movie presents the problem. I didn't do shit, man.
This movie does a lot of problem presenting that it then irons over so easily. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the theme that we're talking about here. But the one that you've brought up now, he tries to fix things for Kit Kat. She goes back, fixes things, has this great relationship with her brother. This is prime material for storytelling.
Yeah.
You know? And instead, it's like a moment that he's like, oh, okay, well, I can't do that. So instead, now I realize that Kit Kat's going to have to live this hard aspect of her life the way it's meant to be lived. And all I can do is help her naturally through it in the course of day-to-day life. But for this movie, all it takes is sitting in the hospital with her for a long, long time until she realizes it. And then it's just fixed.
You would think maybe.
It's just like, you know.
Yes.
Opportunity missed again.
It takes a very, very easy way out there.
Yeah. Every time. By the end, it's every time. Every hardship. Even the ones that he's realized he can't fix with time travel, they gloss over and it takes all of 3 minutes. Right?
Yeah.
That's frustrating.
The most tension in this movie happens in the scene where Mary is trying on a variety of dresses.
But even that is charming. Like, you love to see
it's a great scene. And what's the line?
No, I'm not wearing these heels. I look like a prostitute.
Well, not high heels then.
Yeah, but then we have the short legs problem.
Okay, well, do you want to look like a prostitute or a dwarf?
Warning. That's a warning.
Warning. That's a warning. That was great. Like,
yeah, right.
They've got so much chemistry together.
This is a little bit like the Simpsons episode. in this way.
Yeah, okay, I can't wait to hear this.
Over the course of discussing the Simpsons episode that we did last week, I kind of came to the realization that I kind of like that episode. This one, the more I talk about it, the more frustrating it is. I feel like I've gotten fooled. I feel like the movie fooled me. And I think it's
fooled me, Jerry.
You see, you're going, they fooled me, Jerry. You want to hit fooled more. They fooled me, Jerry. You see the difference?
They did. I feel like they fooled me. It's almost like this Richard Curtis has a power over people to do that. I don't think this functions well as a movie. He's so good at crafting heavy dramatic moments, but even the dramatic moments, I'm trying to think back to Love Actually, it's been so long, but even those, they all kind of fizzle, right?
Well, when you take Love Actually, kind of to your point, maybe this will kind of sharpen it a little bit. If you pull out all the vignettes and you just put them together in a chapter by chapter kind of thing, each one of them lasts barely 10 minutes. You know? And Richard Curtis can hold that narrative together by just hitting these big, big moments. And you feel like there's so much more there because he's juggling like 10 stories at a time. And I feel like the same technique's being employed here, but the cracks are a lot more visible because we're really only following this one dude around. There's different slivers of different movies in here. And a lot of them could be expanded.
He knows how to write a scene.
The scene with Charlotte visiting over the summer could have been a whole movie. The managing the meet cute and trying to establish the relationship with Mary could have been a whole movie. The end with Dad could have been a whole movie, right? Like all of these things could have satisfied an entire movie, but instead we're like spending about 10 minutes on each one and just jumbling it together. And at the end, it's attempting to say something profound about existence that ultimately has nothing really to do with time travel. But I still stand by, I think it lands okay, but it's an uneven journey, 100%.
I think that the message that is spoken to you by the main character is a good one. I think that by the end, in his narration, and he's talking about how he learned to appreciate time. That's why the movie is about time. He's learned to appreciate the little things, just buying a coffee and your interaction with the cashier, making her day a little better, whatever you can do to live your life each day to the fullest. That's what he wants the outcome of this to be. And that'd be great if 3/4 of it wasn't a romantic comedy.
Yes.
So I agree that he hits all the big drum beats, and that's a good little message to have by the end.
Ultimately, the message of the movie is, if you have a significant other and Margot Robbie invites you into her hotel room, you just gotta say no. You gotta say no. Sorry, guys. Them's the breaks. You gotta say no. No hall passes.
See, you know that he could have gotten away with it.
Yes. Yes, he could have, because he could have done it and then traveled back in time. That's not the person he is.
Yeah.
He would live with that, right?
Right. But he's the perfect person. Everything's easy, man.
Mary is pregnant when Tim goes back to see his dad again.
The last time.
And they play table tennis together, and his dad kind of realizes, oh, this is the last trip.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? They embrace. They have this really great moment. Like, I mean, again, it's just...
It is. It's good.
Bill Nye is awesome. He was also in Love Actually.
And he knows all that science.
Right. Yeah. He's still worried about the climate. But then they go on that just kind of joint travel back together, which again should completely ruin everything, but somehow doesn't.
He says if they're careful, it shouldn't ruin anything.
Oh, okay. Is that right?
Yeah.
All right.
I guess if you want to give the movie the benefit of the doubt, they're just going back and reliving an exact moment that they already had.
Yes, that's what the movie invites you to believe. Yeah. They went back and everything was just as it was the first time. They were just experiencing it as their older selves.
They just did it again. Yeah.
Yeah. Something I thought that was very interesting, a little detail in here, is that Tim's first 2 children are both girls.
Yeah.
And it's not until he has the 3rd child that he has a son.
Yeah, yeah.
So the son doesn't come until after
the father has passed.
The father has passed. And it's like, okay, well, now we know that this is going to continue into the future. Right? Like, there's going to be another version of this story down the road, right?
Yeah.
For this family. And I thought that was the timing of that male child. I was like, well, that's not accidental. Like, that was something that was very deliberate. I like that little detail.
Yeah, yeah. It's like The Wire.
Yeah, it just keeps going.
It all keeps going.
Always the same. God, that was a downer, though. Whew, Jesus. Poor, what was his name? What was his name? Dookie?
Yeah. Oh God.
Oh man, Dookie does not end up in a good spot.
Duquan, yeah.
Jeez, rough stuff. Anyway.
At any rate, okay. One last thing I definitely want to talk about before we talk about time travel, and it's kind of a big deal for me, but it requires a crap ton of speculation.
Okay.
This uncle character.
Oh.
This guy is so out of it, and we know that he's capable of time travel. I kept waiting for a big shoe to drop with this guy.
Yes.
I kept waiting. Something has to be going on with his ability to time travel and his complete absent-mindedness, or just his complete
like he
lack
did it
of
too
understanding what's going on.
Yeah,
right in front of him.
Like he did it too much, and his brain got dislodged or something.
I've got an important announcement to make. We've decided to get married.
Were you getting married too?
To Mary? Over there.
Oh, thank God for that. Jolly embarrassing if it had been another girl. Imagine that.
Either that, or he's just like, okay, this is the 15th time I've lived this day. Who are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, or something. Like, I kept thinking, he's too much on the periphery with such an odd behavior that it has to be involved somehow.
But it's not.
But it's not.
Like, it's not at all. Like, the movie, it doesn't explicitly say that it isn't, but I think it leans more towards it's not.
Yeah.
And it's just who he is, because the dad talks about him in that sort of vein. There's nothing cautionary about Uncle Desmond.
They also say that at the beginning, where they're like, and we never really figured it out. But in a movie I may be more accustomed to seeing, there's something there. And he's too interesting, and his behavior is too odd for it to not come back somehow.
What if, and this is just, again, like speculation, and like maybe what if...
It's all we can do.
What if we were looking at this and trying to write that part in for him?
Uh-huh.
What if he had this formative experience as a young man that he kept wanting to go back and relive, but he had children, and every time he came back, the child was different, and he couldn't stop himself? Like, he was addicted to going back to that moment.
Yeah.
And, like, over time, it just sort of broke.
Yeah.
You know, like, something like that, like a cautionary tale planted within the movie. Like, this is why you can't abuse this, or you can't do this or that, because your brain can't handle it, and eventually you just sort of crack.
Yeah. Right. I figured it would be something like that. All the men in our family can do this, but you have to be able to manage it like me, son, or you'll end up like your uncle.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I wonder if that ever came up in a draft or anything. This movie puts so little focus on it that by the end of the movie, I was sitting there thinking, could he travel in time? Was he the uncle they were talking about? I don't even know, because the movie doesn't touch on it at all.
Yeah,
outside
he doesn't
of that
talk to him
initial
about
thing,
it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They do mention that he can do it. And then
yeah.
his big emotional beat, and it's, again, a good one. Good for you.
Man, it's so good.
Is that on the wedding day, the father tells the uncle that he loves him, and that made it his best day.
At your wedding, he said he loved me.
He does.
I know. That was the best day of my life. So this is probably the worst.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah, it's so... It's like the most lucid he's been in the whole movie, too. Like,
right.
It's the first time he seems completely engaged with what's going on around him.
Except that he's coming to the realization. He's not even engaged at that moment. It's like you see him become engaged, which means that character is so absent-minded and so out there and so on the periphery of it all that there's something going on there. He's not just Uncle Fester. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if that's like the dangling of a plot line from an earlier draft or just an unrealized potential that we're bringing to it or what. But again, if you want to make this story about Tim and his life as opposed to his life with Mary, then yeah, like the brothers, the uncle and the father, that brother relationship could be two sides of a coin, right?
Like, if you don't want us to think about this, don't introduce the concept of it. Don't suggest that it's possible or that it's been happening.
It's really curious. But instead, everyone loves each other. His parents don't have a poor relationship.
Oh, his mom says the great line when she finds out that he's dying and Tim and Mary come over.
Hello, darling.
Mum, how are you?
Honestly?
Why not?
I am fucking furious. I am so uninterested in a life without your father. Mary, come on, let's make some tea.
I am so uninterested in a life without your father. Man.
Yeah.
What a great line.
It is a good line. Yeah.
There's a million great lines in this movie.
Yeah.
The whole scene where Mary's parents come to her flat.
Yeah, that was weird.
Where she's like, I've got some bad news. He's like, you're dying. And she's like, no, that's not it. He's like, I'm dying?
Yeah.
Those moments are so...
I mean, they're good. But when you sit back and have a podcast about it, then you think about that moment again and be like...
There's a lot of cracks.
Why would you even be nervous? Why would you ever be nervous about any situation? Like, oh, you're springing this on me? I'll just wake up tomorrow morning and be prepared.
Right, there's no consequences for overusing it.
No consequences.
You just do it as much as you want. Yeah, there's absolutely no risk involved in day-to-day life.
Life just perfect and safe and normal.
This is like the anti-time traveler's wife.
It's like what we wanted the time traveler's wife to be.
I mean, really, like if you took the basic core concept of the time travel and time traveler's wife and migrated it over into this movie, I think you'd have a really good time travel movie. Because the time travel and the time traveler's wife is unpredictable. It's out of sequence. There are real risks and dangers associated with the time travel.
Right, but we don't like their relationship.
But the relationship sucks. So if you could either take the time travel aspect of that movie and transplant it into this, or take the relationship in this and transplant it over there, I think you've got like one good movie.
Not to say that this is a bad movie.
It's not. It is not. And I stand by what I said earlier. It begs a watch. I really do think it's worth watching.
I think that it's inherently watchable, but once you're at the end of it, I feel like I've been bamboozled.
You're like Mulder and the Fiji Mermaid. You're just getting shut out at the end.
I feel like I've been fooled into believing I watched a movie. When in reality, I just watched a bunch of scenes.
If you're gonna build a time machine into a car, why not do it with some style?
I think this is a good point to talk about the time travel method, though, because we're kind of alluding to the time traveler's wife and whether that method was better or worse than this.
Sure.
So time sliding is the name of the game here. Now, rules... Again, to review, the men in the family have always had the ability to travel through time. Now, there's an asterisk there. You can also bring back whoever you're holding on to.
Which we didn't know. And I wonder if the father knew that.
See, some of what I think could be considered plot holes could just be circumstantial, like, did anybody ever try this before?
Yeah.
Maybe dad wasn't aware that you could do this or that. And that is one of those.
That could be really problematic if your wife did know. See, that's the other thing. His dad spent his whole life not telling his wife that he was a time traveler.
Right, and it seems out of character for Tim never to tell Mary that. You know, it does seem like something
seems out of character for the dad who we love for being this great dad and this great person, that he would keep that from his wife for an entire lifetime.
You'd want to tell somebody. I got to tell somebody.
But as soon as you do, then you'll be like constantly under suspicion from that person.
You know, it's entirely possible he did tell her at some point and then traveled back because it didn't go
well, fuck this.
Yeah.
Not doing that again.
What was I thinking?
It's like Superman kissing Lois Lane and making her forget everything.
Hey, Superman's a time travel movie. Maybe we can watch that.
Yeah.
So one of the other rules established here is that you can only go backwards, not forwards, and only within one's own life to places that you actually were and can remember. So, I mean, we've talked about some of the challenges narratively with this time travel. Like, Posey should never have been able to come back at any point.
And in the next scene, he just does
In the next scene, he does that. He does that exact thing. You just told us this.
I guess what he did, though, was go back and make it that he never went there.
Well, here's the thing. He goes back to the New Year's Eve party, and the changes he makes affect Kit Kat, but not him. Right? Yeah. So, again, you can kind of write it off that way.
But it does affect him. So then they have to go back and undo it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I'll give it to him.
The time travel in this movie... Would I like to be able to do it? Sure, of course I would.
Think how easy your life would be.
On the time travel preference scale, this is pretty high. But we look at it narratively and dramatically, too. Like, I don't know. This is a little tricky for me, I think. I think it is interesting. I think it's fun. I think it is unique. And I especially like, again, that it's this sort of hereditary thing that's explained, and you've got this sort of reversal of the time traveler himself being put in a position where it all has to be explained to him and not the other way around.
Wait a minute, Dad. I mean, you knew about this? You knew about this and you didn't tell me?
Well, that might have been ruined for me by the time traveler's wife. I was about to say, do we remember where we ranked the time traveler's wife? But we never did. That was prior.
Yeah, that was prior to rankings.
Yeah. I mean, it spent this whole podcast telling you how perfect this makes your life. Seemingly no detractors as long as you keep your kids alive.
Yeah.
You know, unless being a parent's just too hard for you, Brian.
Oh, yeah. Great. Thanks. On one hand, I'd like to have some do-overs. On the other hand, there is no goddamn way I want to relive these days right now. You know, like every single day I'm like, thank God that is over. No, I think it's narratively interesting. I think it's different style of time travel, and would I want to do it? Absolutely. So by those metrics, I think this would land pretty high. There's a lot of portals. This is interesting in that you go to a dark place, you clench your fists, you imagine where you want to be, and you're there.
Yeah, why can't these things just be machines?
Look, if we're judging this on the uniqueness of it too, though, that's pretty unique.
Except... well, I was about to say we saw it before with the time traveler's wife.
He had no control over that. The only difference here is that one, it would just happen randomly, right? And that's, again, creating a scenario where it's narratively probably a little bit more interesting because there's a lot more potential for just chaos there. It's kind of like when I rated the air raid portal above the Millennium portal specifically for that reason, right? Like there's more dramatic tension created by this style of time travel. But this is something he's got more or less complete control over, right?
Yeah.
And it's presented in a unique way, in a unique context. I don't know. I think this is pretty high. I don't want to say it. I think I would put this at number 3.
Dude, really? Above the clock?
I would put this above the clock that went backwards.
Man,
Look, let's go back to the clock that went back. It's still a giant fucking clock.
I know.
Like imagine that instead of going into a closet and traveling through time, you had to drag the closet to the place you wanted to go. And then climb inside of it.
But the clock that went backwards is interesting because it's a machine that had a crafted purpose to the existence of all humanity.
That's great. You're into that sort of thing.
The craftsmanship that comes into building technology. That's what it comes. I'm glad you brought this up because I'm having a lot of trouble making this as high as you are. And I think the reason is because I think I prefer my time travel to be the product of some
human ingenuity,
either ingenuity or some fashion that isn't just happenstance.
Okay. Yeah, no reason is given for this. It just happens. These people have it very easy.
Yeah. For me, this is low.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm looking at this list. I even want to drop drug-induced time slipping down because I'm getting to the point now where when it's just time travel because it is, then whatever. Like the clock that went backwards is fucking rad because like some dude from what was it? When was it made? The clock itself was made in like 1750 something, right?
Right.
And
right.
Dude like figured out time and space and built this thing.
Okay, well, according to Indiana Jones, Archimedes beat him to the punch by like 1,000+ years.
Well,
so I mean, but
good
okay.
for Archimedes. But see, even that's cool. Like to this, it's just like, hey, we're Teen Wolf but time travelers.
All right, okay, well,
I cannot abide number 3.
That's fine. Well, here's the thing. I think it's better than the time regressor from Space Ghost.
I don't think so.
Oh my God, really?
The time regressor was at least built by someone. It's almost
They're not
like
all going to be built. We can't. I don't know. They can't all be built, and we can't just shoehorn all of the ones.
But the time regressor was designed and built by somebody, and is almost the perfect
by a fucking
time
moron.
machine. No, it's almost the perfect time machine. It's easy to use. It's like a transporter, and it'll bring you back.
Yeah, if you set it properly.
This is not better than the time regressor.
Oh God, no. Yes, it is.
I'm putting it at 5.
You mean below the time regressor?
I'm putting it below the time regressor and above the tappers. And you owe me one.
I do owe you one. That's
because
why I do have to.
From this other thing. What was the... what do you owe me for?
I think I owe you for the time portal from Air Raid.
Is that it? No, because Tug was there to back you up on something. But anyway, you owe me one.
All right.
And, I mean, this is just clenching your fists and time traveling. I think it's number 5, and that's generous.
Okay. Well, I would rather do that than just about anything else on this list.
Well,
I would say that. And I factor that in. I do factor that into my choices. Like, which of these things create the most dramatic tension? And I would agree that the About Time slipping doesn't do that. But it's not the fault of the mechanism itself. It's the fault of the script that really just plays everything as schmaltzy and perfect as possible.
Yeah, but there's also...
You could start some real shit with the About Time slipping.
Yeah, you certainly could. And there's some question about, is there anybody else in the world that could do this? Like, why just this family? None of these things are explained, right?
That was never going to happen in the movie.
No, it wasn't. But, I mean, if I'm going to ask you, well, why can they time travel? And you just say... Because.
Just because.
Not good enough, damn it! Not good enough!
Not good enough.
Nate,
that is not a reason to...
No, it's not just because. It's because they're British.
No. That's going to be a big sticking point for me. If your reason for how does this work is because it does...
Okay, all right. And the movie does violate its own rules several times.
And you owe me one.
And I owe you one. Okay. I think this is a perfectly fine spot
all right,
for it.
But now we're even.
Yes.
Okay.
It's something eventually has got to bust into the top 3. I know we felt bad about where the clock that went backwards ended up last year, but I mean, something's going to break. And I know something will. There are things ahead of us this year that are going to break into that spot.
Okay. All right. Well, then it doesn't have to be this.
Nah.
All right.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, time regressor from Space Ghost. Fucking rocks.
That's going to be the clock that went backwards of this year.
I like the time regressor. I think that if you...
You forgot to set the timer. Fucking
You forgot to turn this stupid dial.
Jace, you moron.
Look, if you grow up the time regressor with the rest of the content, that's a pretty damn good time machine.
It's a good time machine. Yeah, pretty cool.
All right, what am I calling this?
I just put time sliding and put the movie next to it.
See, it's not even...
Well, it's better than time clenching. Which was my first instinct. And I was like, that's Not going to work.
Yeah, I think if you can't even come up with a cool name for it, then it doesn't deserve to crack the top 4. All right, so what's going on next?
Oh, man, guys. On deck next time, we're actually going to be joining the Unapologetic Geeks video coming out soon about the movie
That's true.
Free Jack, which stars Emilio Estevez and Mick fucking Jagger.
Have you seen Free Jack?
I have seen the trailers for Free Jack.
I've never seen it either.
I've never seen the movie. I know what it's about. I've seen the trailers, and I thought, man, this looks pretty stylish when I was a kid. It's like, it definitely has the same look as something that came out from that era, like Millennium or Demolition Man, or like right around that same period. But
I'll tell you what I've seen, Brian.
What's that?
The Rotten Tomatoes score.
Oh, no, it's not good. It's no
good. Great.
You want no part of those tomatoes.
But we've decided to podcast about it as well.
So we're gonna,
right?
we're gonna appear on Tug's next video about Free Jack, and then we're gonna go into more detail about Free Jack in our next episode here. So be sure you're back for that. And where is Free Jack? I'd like you guys to, just for once in your lives, watch the movie before you listen to the show.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe some of you have seen Free Jack. I know somebody mentioned it at some point.
Somebody has to have seen it.
David Johansen's in this movie. He just died. He just died in February. Rene Russo is in this movie. Anthony Hopkins is in it.
Yeah.
Jonathan Banks is in it. Mike Ehrmantraut. Frankie Faison. Wow, this is a great cast. Esai Morales is in it. The villain from Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning.
Oh, there you go.
How about that? Anyway, and then a bunch of people who look like they may have sacrificed their necks for fame. Beefy guy. Anyway, Free Jack. You can watch it on, oh hey, The Cock, baby. Roll on over to Peacock and give Free Jack a look and be here with us in 2 weeks. For that exciting time. Until then, guys, thanks for listening. As always, be sure to subscribe to this show on your preferred podcast app. Wherever you listen to it today, just go ahead and subscribe to it so you never miss an episode. Do the auto-download thing. I always do that in case, I'm somewhere with a really poor signal. There's nothing I hate more than when I'm listening to a podcast, I enter a place with shit service, and suddenly it cuts out. And I was just getting into it. So make sure
it starts buffering. Don't let it buffer.
God, make sure you're downloading the episode, subscribing to it. Leave us comments wherever you can. Your podcast app allows you to rate and review. Go ahead and do it there. If you want to write comments in the street outside of our houses, well, creepy, but I mean, if you must.
I actually keep sidewalk chalk in my mailbox, so feel free to stop by.
Nice. Okay, good thinking. Reach out to us via email at ohboyqlpod@gmail.com. What did you think of About Time? Does the romantic plot of About Time overpower any sort of issues you might have with the time travel? I mean, I'm assuming people here are going to be real sticklers for this sort of thing, and I was a stickler too, and I still am to an extent, but I think the movie's relatively effective. So drop us your thoughts about that. You can find us on social media. I am at Captain Burns, CaptnBern, on Blue Sky, and Brian.Lee.Martin on Instagram and Threads.
And I am at Action Nate on both Blue Sky and Threads.
And again, folks, thanks for listening. Until next time, I'm Brian.
And I'm Nate.
And we'll see you in the future.
The truth is, I now don't travel back at all, not even for the day. I just try to live every day as if I've deliberately come back to this one day, to enjoy it as if it was the full, final day of my extraordinary, ordinary life.
I don't get many things right the first time.